Hey everyone, welcome to Stabicraft on the Sound. Following up on our last video of the weighted crab pot versus unweighted crab pot, one of the things that I had noticed and a few other folks had noticed and commented on as well in that video was the fact that the pots themselves drug along the bottom a fair amount. In fact, one of them physically tipped entirely over, then drug along the bottom through the eelgrass until it hit the point where the pull on the line was more vertical to pull it out of the water. So today what I'm going to do is drop both of the pots again in the same general area, but before I start cutting up my lines to make varying lengths, I'm going to try it out, see how it looks. So once I drop a pot and it hits the bottom, I'm going to coil up the excess line, leave enough so that even at the peak of high tide for the day, it should still have enough extra to float the buoys on top. Both our pots ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and drop them in here and zip tie them up. So we'll find out if having the vertical pull makes a difference or not. I'm hoping it does. And I'm gonna start with the one that has the shorter rope. So I need to set this one down here for a minute on the floor. We will toss this one in, and I still always, when I'm throwing these things out, loop them around a cleat. This comes from experience because in the past I've actually tossed some in after I had drifted a little bit. Not a great deal of drift, but realized I threw my pots in water that was probably 100 feet deeper than what I had line, and I literally watched them vanish into the depths, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. So after that, I've kind of got to the point where I do like to be anchored up when I'm throwing them out, and then I still wrap them around a cleat. Make sure you can see I still got plenty of line here. So this one's getting ready to go in. Don't have a lot of excess line on it, enough that if the tide come in another 10 foot, it would still have extra. So these should not end up being angled far off as far as the other ones would go, but I'm still going to take a few loops out of them to shorten them up a hair, just because that's what we're doing in this video. Once again, I'll crank out the zip ties because these are one of the best universal tools outside of duct tape you can have, in my opinion. They're quick and easy to apply, and they're also very easy to remove. So I will get a couple of these on this loop, and it is in. So now for crab pot number 2, we'll check it in the other side, and this is the one that has all the weight attached. So it ought to drop pretty fast. And still do the same thing, try and make sure that I got a cleat that can catch the final bits. But okay, so this one, I now have a ton of leftover space. So this is where I will get the zip ties and tie this thing up good and tight and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So same as with the other, I already have a good amount of this one coiled up from its previous deployment. And I'm going to give it as little free space as possible, because when I catch these things, we do want to pull this thing just vertical, if we can at all, to get it out of the water. So I'm going to zip tie up the extra coils here, and this is leaded line, so it'll sink. The extra will go down. All right, so we've got that in the water. So now we're going to try and idle up a ways, get some sunlight here over the crab pots, let them set. Then we'll come back in an hour, we'll pull them, see what we have. All right, our pot's been down about an hour, maybe a little over, maybe a little under. So we're gonna go ahead and try and line up on them, idle by, pull one at a time. Other times come out, if they're close together, I'll try and snag both at once, throw them over cleat. But part of the whole determining, can we pull them straight up in one smooth go and get the pots to behave better. I'm just gonna do one at a time, circle back around, grab the second one, we'll see the same thing. We'll see how it turns out. So let's line up on some pots, pull them in, see what happens. All right, we are lined up on the first set here pretty well. And this will be the weighted pot. I can tell just by how it feels on my fingers. So I'm holding it. You can also tell by the amount of coiled line we have from when we zip tied everything together. So now, you get it rigged up in the puller. And try and get it up from the bottom as smoothly as possible. Here we go. These pot pullers are nice. We've got a lot in here, some very large ones. You can see some of the smaller ones there about to escape on their own. That one's a female. I'm sure some of the other ones here are females, and the females all go back. But this is just pot number one, and it seems to have done pretty well. So we'll cull these out, see which ones we're keeping, which ones we're tossing back, and go from there. All right, so the first ones here, the ones I know are absolutely too small and female, like that one. It's going back. This one's a female. It's already trying to get out. It's got one broken pincher and another pincher that's trying to get me, so it's gone back. Another female going back. This one's missing several legs. Also a female going back. We got a good size, I'm going to say male here. Also angry. He just barely got the tip of my finger. So we will we'll grab the gloves, flip him over, get him out of here. Oh yeah, it's a him. Come on, buddy. Give it up. And if you grab them by the claws, they don't have as much strength to push their claws open as they do to clamp them down on your fingertip. So I normally though just grab them from the bottom right here and hold them, and they can't bend around enough to get you. But this one, definitely a hard shell. Let's check them out here on the old size gauge. Let's turn it around to the American side here. So he is right, I'm gonna put his thing down, he is right at 7 inches. That's a good solid crab. He has all legs, both claws, This one's going home. All right, male number 2 here. Also a male. Half the time you can just tell from the size of him, honestly. But all his legs, both claws up front. Definitely a hard shell. So we'll check the measurement here across the body with a little gauge. And this one, again, is right at the 7-inch mark. So he's going home. Then the other ones in here are just tiny and probably female. Yep, that one's a female, but too small to get back out on its own. So I'll have to try and coax it out, which is a challenge. So let's flip over the one that's a little more docile here, which is a male, actually, but it's a smaller male. And if you ever let one of these things get a hold of you, you won't want to again. I don't know how well that'll pick up. They're pinchers, but the tips of them are like pointy, so they can dig in. But this one is small, like way small. So it's under 6 inches. So it's going back. I believe this one was just a female, so it's going back. So pot 1 is done. We'll get it out of the pot puller here. We'll shut down crab cam. Now we'll loop back up there, grab our second pot, see how it did. And same drill as before. Now that I have them, we will get them rigged up on the pot puller here as quickly as possible. We'll kick it back on. Bring him in and see what this looks like. All right, not as good on this one. Still got a crab, right? Only this time around it's a red rock crab, which I personally do not care for. The shells on these things are, well, as the name implies, I think the rock comes from how hard their shells are. So this one's likely going to go back in, but we still caught one, which is more than last time. So we'll get the crab can video processed here. And you know, obviously one pot did really well. This one not as much, and this guy's going back, so I'm just not going to mess with that. But in the words of the great Ron Swanson, tonight's dinner will be surf and surf. So overall, not a bad day out. We'll watch the video, see how it looks. When we're watching the video, we'll be able to find out if pulling them uniformly, like grabbing the puller, getting them up all in one go, if that made any difference in how they moved across the floor. And we'll find out. So stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.